guy up here in the front said, "I don't get it." You'll get it.
Jazz has been around in the United States for over a century, combining elements of blues, ragtime, and brass bands. Over time, jazz continued to evolve, from Latin jazz to big band to swing to bluegrass to new soul, and the music has had a profound effect on many people's lives.
My history with jazz probably starts somewhere in the womb with my twin brother who just played trombone out there. We were named after jazz saxophonist Rahsaan Roland Kirk. My mom is a singer, my grandmother's a pianist and an organist, and so she was into the big band music of her day, and so I was literally, as we say, raised in a jazz household. And certainly I heard other great singers and great styles, but there was a lot of jazz growing up for me in the house.
My history with jazz started in high school in the high school jazz band. And I started playing bass in that, and then moved on to college and played jazz gigs in Los Angeles a lot, and moved to Nashville and playing jazz gigs here. So
I think the spontaneity that goes into jazz improvisation when it's really in the moment is probably the biggest thing that separates it from other music styles. Most of the time when we play in other styles, our parts are already written, and there may be some spots for solos or improvised material. But in general, in jazz, once you get past the statement of the melody, and in truth, even with the statement of the melody, there's a highly improvised art form. And the jazz musician's challenge is to embrace all of those differences and nuances and ways of playing in order to make a melody, whether it's improvised or premeditated, as we would say, resonate on the deepest level with the audience.
Today, jazz still remains popular with many people. Nowhere is that more true than at the Nashville Jazz Workshop.
Well, I started with the Nashville Jazz Workshop when they first opened in 1998. I'm a jazz guitar player. When I came here, I found that there was a system. There were structures that you could learn. There were things that you could do that with practice to really improve. Well, our mission is to enrich people's lives through jazz education and performance. We offer classes and performances and special events for the community. But the enrichment component comes from the fact, and we see this, observe this time and time again in students and patrons who come for performances, that they're not just coming to be taught or to be entertained. A lot of them really find this a life-changing experience. When they're able to learn jazz in the right setting or hear it presented in the right setting, it's a very powerful, transformative experience for people. We're also on a mission to provide a home for jazz in Nashville. Nashville is Music City. Classical music has a home for the symphony. Opera has a home in the Nashville Opera. So jazz ought to have a home too, and that's what we want to be.
It is certainly a driving force in the genre and the bright future it leads.
it just keeps pulling in more and more styles into it, and I just see it becoming a bigger collage of all the styles of the world coming together and kind of creating this new jazz.
You're finding lots of artists taking modern material and playing it in jazz instrumentation, jazz context, and then you're finding lots of energy in newer jazz artists that are actually rooted in the greats of the past. I think that we're coming back to realizing that jazz is music for everyone and not music for a certain age group or a certain demographic, and that when it's played at its best, it has an appeal that obviously crosses demographics. And not a lot of music that's being made right now is actually made with that universal of an appeal, but the musicianship resonates with everyone.
No matter where jazz ends up in the future, one thing can always be certain. Jazz will always be timeless cool.